Speed to lead matters. So there's a Harvard Business Review study which says that if you don't follow up with the lead within 5 minutes or less, you lose 80% chance of closing that lead. So speed to lead, as you know, matters a lot. And that problem is impossible to do with humans because we don't work 24/7. Leads might slip through the cracks, et cetera, et cetera. So AI has gone to a stage where you can follow up with every lead within those 60 seconds. So that's something that we're super passionate about solving.
Welcome to Scale Like a CEO. In today's episode, host Justin sits down with Omer Jamal, founder of Atlas, to explore the critical elements of scaling leadership in the AI era. They discuss leveraging artificial intelligence in business operations and the strategies behind building a winning culture that drives sustainable growth at Atlas.
Thank you so much for joining me on Scale Like a CEO. Just to get us started, if you wouldn't mind, give us a 90-second intro to you and your business.
Yeah, my name is Omer Jamal. I'm the CEO and founder here at Atlas. Atlas is an AI revenue engine, team in a box. So two agents, one job, which is to grow your business. One agent creates demand with TV ads, and the second agent closes demand by following up with leads in 60 seconds or less with voice AI. So we work with Dan Martell. We work with a number of local businesses, call centers, agencies, all the likes of small to medium sized businesses is a sweet spot.
That's awesome. I love watching the space of what AI is doing in sales, and it's every day there's something new. So it's just kind of a fascinating area to watch. I'm curious, tell me a little bit more about the problem that your company is solving and why it matters in the industry now.
Yeah, so a lot of small businesses waste a ton of money and time with marketing agencies and unprofitable ads. So, expensive agencies and unprofitable ads is something that we notice quite a bit. So speed to lead matters. So, there's a Harvard Business Review study which says that if you don't follow up with the lead within 5 minutes or less, you lose 80% chance of closing that lead. So speed to lead, as you know, matters a lot, and it's impossible. That problem is impossible to do with humans because we don't work 24/7. Leads might slip through the cracks, et cetera, et cetera. So AI has gone to a stage where you can follow up with every lead within those 60 seconds. So that's something that we're super passionate about solving. How I see a future where every business will follow up with every lead within 60 seconds or less. So that's quite exciting. And then also just giving local businesses access to what was reserved for the national brands, right? So historically speaking, small businesses shy away from advertising on TV. However, now you can be a small business and be in the biggest screen in people's homes for your advertising efforts. We've created an AI agent that launches, measures, and optimizes campaigns for you. So it's a fantastic tool that saves a lot of time and energy.
Incredible. I love how AI seems to be a great equalizer right now, and giving access, to those small businesses is really great. So, I noticed that this is not your first gig at, starting up a business and then, getting it to profitability. You've successfully scaled and sold off a couple of companies now. So, I think for the conversation, would love to hear just any insights either from Atlas today or, any prior, companies you've been involved with. But the first thing I want to talk about is, as you made the shift from, any of the businesses, kind of starting as a founder, typically founding team of one, two, three, right? And then shifting into growing a team and becoming the CEO of that company. Tell me a little bit about, what were some of the big shifts you had to make personally as you navigated that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Justin. And I think the biggest shift for me mentally was to sharpen my leadership skills, right? And a big part of that is how important culture matters as you grow into an organization. So, when you start out, it's maybe two or three people that kind of get the business off the ground. But when you grow, maybe 10 to 14, 15 employees and team members, to grow that culture internally and to make the same impact that you might have when you're a smaller team, and that same team might grow to 50 employees, 100 employees, whatnot. So that culture adaptation was something that was very new to me. Taking that knowledge amplification, that whatever it is that I might be talking about, how does that relate to the broader ecosystem of our team members, and how do we drive that philosophy to move this operation ahead? So, learning leadership skills was a challenge, and it took me a while to get better at it. It's still something that I look at it as a challenge, still something that I want to get better at. It's all about culture. I underestimated the importance of creating a winning culture that I've spent a lot of time here to do at Atlas, and it's not something that I had done previously in both my startups previously.
Yeah, I've been studying and teaching leadership for over 2 decades, and I still think of it as something that I practice. It is something that requires constant intentionality in the way that you're showing up for your people. So I love that you're acknowledging that. I'm curious, how did you go about developing those leadership skills and acquiring and then continuing to practice? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an avid reader, so read lots of books on it. I read The Trillion Dollar Coach, some books by Jim Rogers, and just an avid reader. Lots of reading, following some people on blogs and Twitter threads and things of that nature. Watching a lot of interviews from successful CEOs on YouTube. Being a student, so to speak, learning the knowledge and figuring out what's really going to work with my style and what's going to resonate with the team, at the same time staying aligned to our mission and vision over here. So, just being a student of the game, and I've been fortunate enough to have some really, really good mentors who've guided me along the way, so to speak.
And as you look back, oftentimes in scaling a business, there are things that you have to let go of, moving from that mindset of the founder to really leading the business. What was the hardest role to let go of in that transition, and what made it difficult to delegate?
All of them, right? So maybe let's just start with email. So as a founder, you're used to just sifting through your email inbox and replying back to everybody, scheduling meetings and whatnot. That hustle on 24/7 culture. So I've been fortunate enough to have an admin assistant. That was the first thing that we just let go and offload and buy me back some time, an hour or 2 hours every day. So I have an assistant who cleans up my email inbox, just leaves what's necessary for me. So we've taken a 2 hour job, brought it down to about half an hour or something every day, which is invaluable. From there onwards, just like customer delivery, sales, and marketing, just delegation of all the nuances that go into running a successful business, whichever sector that you might be part of. You have to hire the right team members, give them the coaching and guidance so that they could get to the right place and deliver on the company mission. So, anywhere from product development to customer success to sales and then to marketing is a ladder that we've gone down the rabbit hole of delegating to my team members.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you found leadership and culture building to be important. So I'm curious, as you're growing the business, how do you identify and develop leaders internally versus how many you hire from the outside?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in growing the talent from within, building a farm team. We have an athlete mentality, so it's something that we try to vet for out the box as much as possible, that whoever's joining has the right attitude and winning attitude that's going to mesh in well with our team here at Atlas. With that said, I would always love for it to be internal and external because people know them, people resonate with them, it clicks, right? Versus having somebody outside come in and get to know our culture, because I truly do believe we have a unique culture here at Atlas. So we're still a new company, so we're only 2 years now. So we're still learning the growing pains of growth, which is always a wonderful problem to have. To answer your question, Justin, it's always been internal.
Well, that's great. And so, I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. You mentioned, when you're hiring, looking for that athlete mentality, but I'm curious, what specific qualities are you looking for when you're promoting your leaders? Kind of how are you observing that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is someone who's extremely, extremely driven, someone who's customer obsessed, someone who really, really wants to make a difference to our clients because everything lives and breathes and starts and ends with the customer. And then process driven. I'm super, super big on process driven. How do we make this scalable and duplicatable in the easiest way, shape, or form? So, as those three things align, that's what helps me to align with the leader themselves, that quick decision making to put them in places where they would most succeed along the business paths.
Great. And then, thinking about organizational structure, what are some things that have prompted you to shift organizational structure as you've grown?
Yeah, we've kept the flat organizational hierarchy, Justin. We believe in team A, team B, right? Team A is sales and marketing, all outside the building activities. Team B is all inside the building activities. So, product development, R&D, coding. Our engineering team lives under team B, and the sales and marketing team lives under team A. So I like these small pods, right? Anywhere from 3 to 5 people. I think that's what helps you scale. One leader within that pod, that's what's worked best for us.
And, share with us a time when you felt overwhelmed by decision making as you've been growing and what helped you to break through it.
Yeah, I'm super, super big on self care, right? Going to the gym often, getting a little bit of fresh air on a daily basis, meditating daily, journaling daily. I think those things just help you stay sane. The human mind is quite chaotic, and with today's generation of social media apps and all types of apps, whether that's on your computer with Slack notifications or social media notifications on your phone, it's one of those things that you could really get bogged down and get distracted and feel super overwhelmed. You might have 200 emails here, you might have 45 Slack messages, and then your social media is blowing up. So you can get really, really chaotic in your brain. And quite frankly speaking, I don't think there's any other way to get rid of that chaos by just eliminating notifications altogether. That's what I believe in. I have my phone on do not disturb for most of the day. I do not get notifications. I don't believe in notifications. I set aside time to check my socials. I set aside time to check my emails. And I stay quite active just in the outdoors here. That helps me just stay calm and manage being overwhelmed.
I'm a fellow zero notifications person. I like if you want my attention, I'm the one who chooses when you get my attention. Yeah, no notifications and totally live by my calendar. I also really like that you're talking about finding that balance through being outside, exercise, meditation, journaling. Those things are so important to keep in your daily cadence just to kind of keep yourself grounded. I've found that those things help me, and when I see myself kind of losing control a bit, it's because I've strayed away from those practices. So I love that you highlight the importance of that.
That's the only thing that works.
So what's been the toughest part of maintaining alignment and culture as you've grown the business?
Yeah, toughest part is just people alignment, I think, right? Continuing to have that startup fiery energy that gets your business to a certain stage. I think that's super critical to have as you enter this growth mode. So, making sure that people are aligned with your vision and mission, ensuring that people understand what the philosophy is, making sure that customers are being attended to at all fronts. You might have team members in different sectors, whether that's marketing and sales that needs help from product development. So that cross functionality and that collaboration is always challenging. And how I've overcome that messaging aspect, because without communicating the same thing to a customer again and again, where we might have a sales and marketing team put out some message on socials, which helps drives business, closes a customer. But if the customer success team is talking about something else, you're kind of not gonna please the customer, right? So I think that sync is super, super important. How we've tried to done it, I've literally created GPTs, custom GPTs that people could just ask questions to, so that we always have messaging on point. So if I'm busy or if the senior executive team is busy, the goal is to ask the GPT first, and you're always going to have a clear message and that's on point rather than waiting for approval from one of the executive team members. So I found custom custom GPTs could be quite helpful to bridge that gap and making sure that everybody's synced up.
Yeah, that's a great use. And random, like, just I want to dive into that a little bit. How do you keep that current, like, as you change information? Because, the what I found is organizations who use AI for that knowledge base, it's only as good as the info that you're keeping in there and what it thinks is current. So how do you keep that up to date?
Yeah, so the first thing that we've done is we've literally tried to take my brain and put it in there. So we have a customer manifesto, we have a press release about the business itself, but then there's some practitioners that I like to follow, whether that's in marketing, whether that's in sales, whether that's in product development, that the custom GPT is trained on their philosophy. So that's the knowledge base. Right, that's the knowledge base for it to kind of articulate. So there's 3 or 4 practitioners within each sector within the business, and from there onwards there's the customer manifesto, there's some presentations in there, there's some press releases in there about the business itself, just to ensure that we always think from a first principles approach to attack that problem. So we just launched this about 6 weeks ago. The response from the team has been phenomenal. How do we keep on updating it? I think that's it, right? We quarter by quarter, as we move along and we move the rocks along, we're going to find additional information that you need to feed the custom GPTs, and we'll feed it in there as the business evolves. But the core thing is that everybody's rowing the same boat, and you're not going in multiple different directions. We're all going in the same direction.
Yeah. So as you look into the future, how do you define the leadership culture that you want to continue building?
For me, it's all about alignment, having an excellent culture that breeds enjoyment, freedom, and technological challenge and innovation in the AI space. We are building the future of AI here. We're aligned with some incredibly intelligent people, both internally and externally, to make a real impact in the application layer of AI towards small businesses. Think about your local home services businesses, professional services businesses, and there's millions of these, right? So that's our mission. How do we leverage AI to help the small business owner, and how do we help them do things efficiently to get ready for scale without the need for hiring more staff, because AI can do that. So for me, it's all about just alignment with internal and external stakeholders to get there. I know it sounds simple, but it's really hard to do so.
Yeah. Well, and so in that vein, what are you doing today to prepare that your next layer of leaders to build that future?
Yeah, all communication, writing first culture over here, having the mentality, having OKRs, having weekly tasks to align with. So it's almost like creating a little system, right? The inputs lead to the output. So we're just practicing and practicing and getting better every day. We're big on learning. So we set aside budgets for everybody if they want to take courses or learn externally from people. We have access to some really good educational content that can be super beneficial for folks. So we want people to leverage that and utilize that to the best of their abilities. So learning is where it all starts and ends.
Would absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. And I'm curious if somebody joined your company tomorrow, what would you want them to say about your leadership in 5 years?
That's a good question. I think leadership is always assessed based on, probably a bad sign of a good leader is when they talk too much about themselves, right? I think people should probably touch on that externally. But to me, like I mentioned before, right, Justin, I think it's all about just alignment and making sure that you're doing the right things. When you do the right things, your team always rewards you with their hard work. So if you have the right culture and a winning attitude, things work out in your favor. For me, what I want to have an impact on and make sure that my team remembers is that we are customer obsessed, right? We have a athlete first mentality and we document everything. So, right, they sometimes probably get annoyed at me by repeating those same goals over and over again, but it works. So, just being super organized, right first, have that winning mentality, which helps you problem solve through things, is something that I want to make sure that we do at all times.
Great. Omer, I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you so much for the time. One final question. Well, actually, two. I have two questions, but second to last question. What's one piece of advice that you'd give another founder about scaling themselves as a leader?
Just figure out how to duplicate yourself, create SOPs, create processes, document everything, train your team, educate your team on it, create custom GPTs. You just got to figure out how to take that node of you and transpire that to 5 or 10 to get that multiplier effects.
Yeah, well, thank you, Omer. And if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, they could just connect with me on LinkedIn, Omer Jamal on LinkedIn. Would love to connect and happy to be resourceful to anybody.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the time today.
Likewise, thank you for speaking to me, Justin.